Cool. Well, welcome to another Monday here at EOS Town Hall. Excited to have a conversation today going on about what's going on with lost key recovery. We've got David in from Everipedia. Let's just get around here. Thank you for Daniel Keys from EOS Nation and Kevin Rose for joining us this morning on the call. But yeah, this has been a long time coming. I mean, the key recovery, I still get hit up probably. I don't know how many calls you're receiving on this recently, Kevin, but every week, 2 weeks, I'm getting a couple guys that are calling me asking, what are we supposed to do? And
we had someone ask in our chat today, 5 minutes ago.
I mean, it's been a sad situation since the beginning of the chain. We're supposed to be able to help these people out, and it's been hard to tell them just to wait. David, what's been going on? How's your wait been?
I've been patient. I'm lucky to have Kedar here to give me updates along the way. Most people aren't as fortunate as me, and they have to kind of be patient on the Telegram, and sometimes the information is not always there, and they're just unsure, and especially since there's that language barrier between here and China. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of uncertainty, and the whole EOS Lost Key community is like really excited for the solution that's coming.
Yeah. So explain a little bit about your situation. How did you lose your keys?
How did I lose my key? This is very embarrassing. I don't really like to admit this, but how I lost my key was I wrote it down on a piece of paper. And it was a very long, expensive lesson in cryptography because I wrote down the public key on paper and the private key. I didn't realize you could just like write the private key. And so I wrote down the private key wrong, and I couldn't access my EOS. I'm just like, I was just really bummed about it.
So you had a problem where you were stupid and you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Not everybody did. A lot of people also had issues where, there were a couple of different issues where generators were, doing some.
The EOS site itself was broken for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
They had, a DNS hack that I think there for a day on the Block One website that was, when people were generating their EOS key, they were actually being provided a fake key and
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Luckily, I haven't seen any cases. It's interesting. There are people in the community I've been speaking to who I suspect they were a victim of this. But when we look at their account, their tokens are all still staked. Doesn't look like the alleged hacker has actually made off with any of their funds. So that's lucky. But yeah, there are, beyond just fat fingering things and there were actual hack kind of cases.
Yeah, it made it a lot more fun. I think being able to prove to people in the community that we can actually recover this stuff and do it in a way that we can all be comfortable, to where it's not going to be another attack method for going after tokens. That's been what's interesting. So
I think this is especially important because of the expectations that were set. A lot of the people who have lost their keys were early investors, and part of the reason they were investing, and part of the reason I guess they maybe handled their keys the way they did, was because they had certain expectations about the features within EOS to be able to recover lost keys. So with those expectations in mind, they might have treated their accounts differently. So I think it's important, given those expectations, in particular those early investors, we need to take care of those guys.
I hope that's not the reason that we're going to run with. I think that if there is, for some reason, if we don't want to be we don't want to forgive people for relaxing. This is, you have to take care of yourself. And I know that mistakes can happen. When I wrote mine down, I wrote them down 3 times, and I turned the TV off and I said to my wife, okay, you're going to read this back to me like a robot for the next 15 minutes, 10 times, and we're very careful. But if you weren't, that's okay. I think that this is about, just a one-time thing that, we can all forgive the chaos of the launch. That's what it was. Like,
right.
The idea that EOS.io is separate than EOS and it's launched by the community and Block One has no say, but they were registering in the snapshot. It's just like, outside of us and the people that do this literally professionally, it's very difficult to understand. So I think that this is a good opportunity for like a one-time, limited time grace period. And it's awesome work that EOS Nation and EOS DAC and everybody's doing.
Yeah, and I agree with that. You know, it harkens back to the idea that, you know, not your keys, not your crypto. And, you know, there were a lot of people, a lot of individuals, I think, in this crowd cell that had come in, a lot of them, some of them first time crypto users. You know, this isn't something that you'd expect, but ultimately being able to do this is something I think that is great for the community. We can get into conversations about what permissioned blockchains mean a little bit later, but ultimately I think it's a great thing. And, you know, speaking of which, Daniel, EOS Nation's done a great job thus far. Why don't you go over some of the, you know, where are we at in the solution? And when are people going to be able to get some relief here?
Sure. Yeah, we're getting very close. Really, EOS Nation can't take a lot of the credit. It was, you know, we were there helping to organize things and make sure things are moving along. But it was, you know, EOS DAC, EOS Authority, LibertyBlock doing a lot of the heavy lifting and coding the smart contracts and things like that. So really, they deserve most of the credit. But we're, you know, it's been a long time. I think it was just before the new year that we started work on this. Been meeting about once a week to make sure things are on track. We've just about a week ago completed all of our test cases on the Jungle testnet. Every one of our test cases has passed successfully. We're in the process now of, I haven't checked in with Michael for a few days, but last I checked, he was either about to or in the process of uploading the accounts to our whitelist on the mainnet. And we're on Wednesday, in a couple days from now, we're going to be introducing this all to the top 21 BPs. We're going to be getting on a call where we know we've invited all the top 21 to come and ask questions and go through the contracts in more detail. And hopefully the idea is we're going to be proposing the MSIG at that time to get approval from our top 21 BPs to deploy the contract to launch this lost key system.
Sounds great. Kedar, why don't you talk a little bit about the smart contracts? What all was developed and how is this going to roll out?
Yeah, shout out first to Rohan from EOS Authority, Michael Yates from EOS DAC too. They're the ones who do a lot of heavy lifting on smart contracts. So the smart contracts are set up so that if you're a lost key, if you lost your key and you still have access to your Ethereum private key, you use your Ethereum private key through MetaMask, Trezor, Ledger, a couple other solutions. Anybody that follows the standard like Ethereum signing procedure, you can use that to sign a message onto the EOS chain that says, I have lost my key, but I still have access to my Ethereum key, so I can prove that this is my account. And then you'll be allowed to reset your EOS key. When you first sign, so you'll go in there, you'll hit our smart contract saying that you've declared I've lost my key. There's going to be a 30-day waiting period, right, Daniel? 30? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, 30.
Yeah, 30-day waiting period. And that 30-day waiting period is for somebody else to come and claim in case for hacked accounts. So if a hacker tries to come and claim your account, you have 30 days to notice that hacker's trying to claim your account and stop them from taking over the account. You can just let us know, hey, we want, this isn't our account. This isn't me that's actually making this change. Hacker's been trying to do it. It's pretty easy to invalidate the claim. What we're checking for is we're checking to make sure there's been 0 actions created by an account on chain when you register. So if you've made any action at all, we assume you've had access to your key at some point during the EOS process and you're no longer eligible for the lost key solution. Going forward, there might be another solution that allows you to claim your key if you lost it after the mainnet launches, but we're not making any guarantees on that. This is only for people that lost their key before the mainnet launch and have never committed an EOS action on chain. I know there's a couple people that say that they've never committed an action on chain and their account's been hacked and they've lost access to their EOS key, just like the triple whammy. In that situation, you might have to go through some sort of like mini arbitration of sorts. The hacker's gonna go in, they're probably gonna produce a claim on chain that's their account. You're gonna go in and you're gonna produce the same claim. We're likely gonna nullify both claims. We're gonna have to figure out how exactly we're gonna reset those keys at that point. Do you remember exactly what we're doing for that, Daniel?
Yeah, I would say that's probably a little outside of this, like the scope of what we are proposing to the BPs to launch is very specific to accounts that have not been used. In a lot of these cases, these compromised hacked accounts have been used, so are kind of outside of the scope of what we're solving here. Any kind of external arbitration process is going to be, it's a whole other process that we'll have to handle those accounts. That not something that we're currently working on solving here. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head in terms of, the scope is very limited, only Genesis accounts that have not been used. And in that 30-day period, it's very easy if, if an account gets identified as this is an account that's going to have the key swapped, a memo gets sent to that account. Just in case, there is actually a legitimate owner of that account who did not make that claim, they're going to receive a notification, and all they need to do is make a transaction. Now that, as soon as a transaction is done on the account, it's now out of scope to have its keys swapped.
Well, it's exciting stuff. I know a couple people that'll be very excited. Patrick Larson from Zen Ledger has just been on me. Yeah, this entire time. He's gonna be super happy. I know a lot of other people will. It's been great work. This is one of the reasons I think for having a permission chain. Ideally, we can get some accounts resolved and more people using this network.
Yeah, I do have a question that people have been hitting me up. I asked in the EOS P group, like, hey, do you guys have any questions? Let me know. And I'll ask on behalf, and a few people did DM me, and they asked a few of them before there was a solution with ECAP where some people had to pay like a fee to get their arbitration case heard, and most of the people did pay that fee, and of course we learned that didn't work out. So what they're wondering is, will there be a way for them to get their fee refunded from ECAP because they had no action taken on their behalf by them? Do you guys have any idea about that?
That's something they'll have to take it with ECAP. Yeah.
Take it with ECAP?
That's no one's business other than the people that took their money.
Okay.
If they want to send money just randomly to people suggesting they should send money for solutions, you can shoot money over to me anytime you want.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say whether or not I'll take an action to help you, but it's for the lulz is one of my EOS accounts that you can send that to. It'd be fantastic. Okay, sounds good. Any other questions, Ted?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's exciting. It's now Monday. We're recording on Monday. This video should be up by tomorrow. And if you're watching this and you know someone who has had issues with losing their key, not able to access their Genesis account, let them know that now is the time. They'll have about 30 days. I'm sure everyone else will be getting news and information out about this. Kevin, what method are you going to use to try to get some information out to remind the users and remind the community?
To recover their keys?
Yep. You going to send any?
I'm sure there's going to be plenty of materials that are developed by EOS Nation and EOS DAC and LibertyBlock, and I'm happy to share those. I want to be able to just share the materials of those who did the work to develop this tool, should it be passed. It's, give more credit to you guys.
Well, appreciate that.
Do you have a timeline of when people can start applying to the solution?
So they can already go to eosauthority.com/lostkey. On that page, there's just keeping track of the status. They can already look up to see if their account is eligible. So you can enter your EOS account name. It'll tell you if you're on the whitelist and eligible, and they'll be notified as soon as it's available if they register through that page.
Okay.
So that's a good place to start. Another thing I'll clarify, you mentioned they'll have 30 days. They'll actually have a year to take advantage of the solution. So from the time we launch, this solution will be available to have you claim your key over the next year. From the time that you make that claim, it's 30 days. There's a 30-day delay before we actually swap the keys. So that gives an opportunity for it in case that is a hacker. The legitimate party could just cancel that, can stop that from happening.
Thank you for the clarification there, Daniel.
Yeah,
appreciate the great work. This week's been a good one. We got a couple, about a month and a half left before B1 June. Seem to be a lot of things going on network. Anything you want to say before signing off here, Kevin?
Are we signing off?
What
We
else
got
is
one
it?
more item.
Okay.
We're talking about
One more
New
item.
York has a new token proposal out.
Boom!
That's
I've
it.
heard about this. What's going on with the token proposal, Kev?
Yeah, so this is a really it's a sensitive topic because the EOS blockchain from the developer's perspective is far more complex and involving than Bitcoin. To build a decentralized application, and for that word to remain true to whatever degree you want it, and meaning the word decentralization, there are a lot of things you have to consider. The smart contracts, that the business logic is obviously on the blockchain, and so is the token contract if it utilizes a token economy. But the front end, where is that hosted? Is that a centralized server? Does that matter? How many? If you take a dApp and you break it down into subsystems, what are the most critical subsystems that have the fewest, are the least decentralized, that you could corrupt to stop normal functioning of the dApp? And what we wanted to focus on specifically with this proposal was token contracts. The ability to leverage a token economy to support activity within a decentralized application is one of the awesome promises of EOS. Everipedia is the shining poster child of developing like a really well-designed, attractive dApp that leverages a token to get people to contribute in a decentralized way. And actually, Everipedia is one of maybe two dApps that have an MSIG owner permission on their token contract. That means that the rest of them have a single owner key. That is a very broad surface of attack that if you were to compromise this key, you could take down the entire dApp, basically. And you, by extension, are trusting one person somewhere with knowledge of how to access this key. The owner key of a token contract can just straight up rewrite balances, can apply fees to transfers, can do whatever they want. And that's sort of the antithesis of what we're trying to build on EOS, a decentralized application development platform that is devoid of any central authority or central point of control. So despite being on a blockchain, many of these decentralized applications are less decentralized than we'd like to think because they have a single owner key. Okay, so that's the background. We are proposing to offer a way for developers to voluntarily abstract away control of the token contract once they reach a certain point in development where it can be considered stable or mature, right? There's not many updates that need to be made, and it's okay now to abstract away this control and turn around to the users of the dApp and say, as a marketing tactic, like, look, you don't need to trust me anymore. Now the threshold to affect the token contract is the same threshold to affect the EOS blockchain. And the way that we do that is by saying you can deploy your token under the EOSIO.token system contract. And that is one of the system contracts that BPs maintain. And you as a developer would not be required to maintain your system contract or your token contract anymore. And in order to do this, because it's a premium feature and there's a whole list of benefits that we didn't even think of originally that I'm compiling, we're offering to build an auction system similar to short names, EOS short names. And that is pretty much it. So the important thing to note here, besides the fact that this is addressing central control of token contracts, this is in no way proposing that we restrict or rescind any capabilities or rights that were previously accessible. This is entirely voluntary. If you're a developer listening to this right now and you're like, I don't want to do that, I want my single owner key control, power to you. Good luck. That's your choice. And then also any funds that are raised from this auction process to deploy this decentralized token ticker we're proposing be allocated towards funding open source development or mainly EOS core development. So that's kind of the bulk of the proposal. Thank you for listening to the rant.
Yeah, no, that's great. I've commonly referred to most dApps on this Web 3.0 now as taps. They're generally no more than token applications. Decentralization is coming. A lot of the things we need to root out and decide upon, still, because there is no decentralized DNS. To me, that's the final nail in the coffin. But other nails along the way are whether or not you have control of your contract and whether or not you can change that. It sounds like this is a good step forward in that movement. Also, let me ask you a question, Kevin. One of the issues that we've had, I think, in the system, it's not a bug, it's a feature, where people can, have token names that are the same all the way across 3 different contracts. Not that it's going to radically change that, but in this new system or the addition of this, this could ultimately create a new class of trusted contracts. Would names be able to be duplicated under that system contract? And if not, is that one of the things that you've been thinking about, whether or not that can provide an additional layer of almost a certification or almost a expectation of an owned contract name?
That's a great question, and I think that is the idea at prior to launch was that tokens would all be deployed under EOS Token, but that was an idea, and that idea was sort of put to the wayside because there were a lot of hurdles to that. There were a lot of obstacles, and the community was not just distributed but disorganized at that time. I mean, it was like, it was chaos. It was beautiful chaos before launch. So under EOS Token, there could only be one namespace reservation. So you can't deploy another EOS under EOS Token. You can deploy another EOS token right now, and if some exchange doesn't have the proper checks in place to understand the origin of that token, they'll accept EOS tokens based on the name. Now, if you're dealing with an exchange that makes that mistake, you should probably not deal with that exchange anymore. And we've actually seen that happen since launch. That has happened. So this is something I think that the Telos blockchain, I don't know if it's actually live, but they have universal namespace where you can only deploy a token with one name once on the entire chain. If that's true, that's an interesting idea. This would be, I think it would create a premium class of tokens that would only allow a name to be deployed once. I'd like to add something that this isn't, this is just one proposed method, right? We wanted to point out this issue and not provide no solution. Like how is that helpful, right? So we point out the issue and we say, and we can do this about it. All right, but there are other ways to do stuff about it. Everipedia has an MSIG on their token contract and their owner permission. That's a great start. EOS DAC they have an entire DAC built around their token contract. This is a great opportunity for certification agencies. If you want to come in and say, oh, we issue certificates for your website, we're also going to issue certifications of immutability for your token contract or near immutability and offer that as a service. Go do that. Like that should be a thing too. This by no means is meant to be the only proposal, just a proposal, because the goal here is to abstract control away from a single owner permission of the tokens that run the economics of all of these dApps that make EOS valuable.
It makes sense to me. Kedar, what are some of your experiences now having deployed that NSIG, and what other benefits do you think that this will have for the community?
Initially, when we started, we thought everyone was going to do the tokens under the EOS token namespace. So we were prepared for that initially. And we were actually really surprised when it turned out that we had to launch our own contract. I know a huge benefit is we save on RAM. So when we did our airdrop, we ended up using twice the amount of RAM we would have had to use otherwise, because we had an open account for every new person on the chain under our own contracts. We would save half the RAM if we'd been able to do the airdrop under the initial under the EOS.token contract.
Which at the time was how much money?
Yeah, it would have been like, it was like 5-figure number of dollars we would save.
Right. And that actually, I think you had pointed that out in Telegram, that that benefit, which I recorded. I've got this whole list of benefits that I didn't think of, that we're going to put out like a part 2, based on all the feedback that we're getting. But yeah, that is a huge benefit. You don't need to maintain a token contract, and you can save half the RAM on doing the airdrop. Now, there are obviously competing ways to do airdrops now with VRAM, but that's still pretty experimental. The user experience isn't totally nailed down yet, with the DApp network and Liquid Apps and everything. But yeah, I mean, that's a great benefit, just saving money straight up as a developer.
Another one is the Kleos transfer command. That one only works on the EOSIO.token contract. So if we were able to get, we were able to get IQ on the EOSIO.token contract, we would be able to use all of anybody that does a native EOS transfer on their website, we would be able to use it to send IQ instead of having to like manually code in and try and convince people to add our token now.
I'm writing that down.
So that is interesting. Would that also then allow for more of the exchanges that are operating with native EOS to allow them to accept tokens in an easier manner?
It would be way easier for them, yeah, because they wouldn't have to go and put in a manual function. They wouldn't have to audit our contract. That's the main thing, is we spend so much time and effort convincing exchanges that our contract is properly audited and showing them our code. If it was the exact same code as EOSIO, one, it would always be up to date. We would never have to worry about updating it. So right now we go through an MSIG process to update it every time there's a token update. And we try and sync that as closely as possible to the EOS token, because when we go to exchanges, we want to tell them, hey, we have the exact same contract as the EOS token. So we spend all this effort trying to mirror the EOS token anyways. If we could just hop into their token, it would make our lives way easier. And for exchange, any application that wants to get in an exchange, you'd be able to point, instead of paying like, we didn't do this, but a lot of people had to pay $40,000, $50,000 to get a proper audit on their contract, in order to be able to accept on some of these exchanges, in each exchange too. So you could save that money and make it a lot easier to develop and get on exchanges for EOS if we were able to get on the EOSIO.token contract.
It's an awesome benefit. I just wrote that down, noted that you told me, and that'll be something that we release when in the part 2, and definitely give you credit for that. Awesome feedback. Yeah.
So sounds good. Yeah, I mean, things are definitely moving along. It's liquidity is important for the tokens that are on our system. The Ethereum community is kind of has created a method to where all their tokens are pretty easily tradable on the outward exchanges, and ideally, once the EOS tokens are as well, we can move beyond just the decentralized exchanges to some more of the centralized exchanges, allowing them to be a little bit more comfortable with this. Now, Kevin, is there going to be a proposed standard name or space? One of the things that if you look at the Ethereum proposal system, and you look at the Bitcoin Improvement Protocol system, they followed a pretty traditional path of proposals and then acceptance. That's one thing in our community we haven't necessarily done yet, but I think the outward crypto community appreciates being able to know there's an ERC 20 standard or 776 standard, whatever they are. Having a defined standard and knowing what it is, I think is important. This might be a good time to come up with a structured system for proposal numbers and methods, so we can start referring to it as that. Have you given that any thought?
Actually, I haven't, but EOS Canada has. So they did a lot of work on the EOS IO enhancement proposals, or EEPs, and that would be a great thing to look at and say, if we are to deploy this auction system in EOS IO token, which would be, we checked the namespace auction code, and it's like the same thing. We changed very little. And that was just at first glance. We got to really dive into it. But yeah, if we were to move forward with this, we should do it in the way that EOS Canada, who are very thorough and organized group of people, how they're suggesting that we do it. I think that's a great idea, because yeah, it's funny how much flack EOS gets for being, you want to call it centralized, but there's no core developer team outside of block one. What the community builds itself is like, it's a free for all. You know, we're pushing like the transit API, trying to make that a community driven standard, but without a structured acceptance, like kind of scrutiny system, like the EOS enhancement proposals, it'll never get any closer, really, no matter how many people are using it, because you need decentralization is a tool. And you've probably seen Dan Larimer say this recently, but he's, you know, there's a lot of people who've been saying for a while, it's not the end goal. There's a bunch of different end goals, but decentralization is a tool. So we need to understand that there's this spectrum that we need to fall on depending on what we're trying to achieve. And if we're trying to achieve standards and structure, then total decentralization is a very difficult variable to include in that mix. So maybe there is an EOS IO enhancement proposal that becomes a little more focused to start, and then expands as it matures. I don't know. I actually have to dive into the EEPs more, but I'll reach out to EOS Canada because they wrote the structure. No one knows better than them.
Yeah, you know, I saw that and I was really excited by that. It looks like they've got something that is really kind of ready to go. You know, they're connecting with them and starting to make this a path forward, or, you know, a way to that path forward. I think would be fantastic. So that's great news. Last week was the San Francisco Expo.
Yeah.
And you were there? Anyone else? You missed it. I missed it. I was in Paris for Blockchain Week, hanging out with the EOS Paris team, which was nice to see them. Kevin, did you go to that show? You're going to be in any other conferences anytime soon?
Traveling is pretty minimal for me because I'm going to have a baby in 5 weeks. So thank you. But I'm going to be missing, you know, Block B1 June, the Tulip, BP Summit. I'm going to be missing all sorts of fun stuff. So someone from EOS New York will be there, but I will be not sleeping. Yeah, that's what I will be doing.
Right on. Is there going to be an auction for your baby name, Kevin?
Absolutely not. But I will be. There is a cool thing. Brock Pierce did this when
Aurora.
Yeah. When his daughter was born, the proof of birth.
Yep.
So I'll definitely do that. Marshall from BP Fish did it too. I'll talk to Ben about that. But yeah, put the proof on the blockchain.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'll be out at B1 in June. You'll be missed. That should be a lot of fun, and hope to get the Tulip as well. Daniel, where are we going to see you next?
I will also be in Washington for B1 June, also at Tulip. Really looking forward to catching up with all the community there. Face to face is always a great time to get some face time with this global community we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great guys. I appreciate this. You being here. The community does as well. This is EOS Town Hall. We'll catch you guys again next week. Do we have a topic for next week? Not yet, but you know, we'll be talking about EOS. You can be sure of that. All right. Have a great day, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for having us.